To review this topic of lymphomas and leukemias. This is a very important topic for NEET PG. Principally, what is asked in NEET PG is what are the various lymphomas which arise from these various parts of lymph node, and what are the markers associated. This is very high. You should Everything that's written on this slide is extremely important. First, we'll have some background context. First, now this is a lymph node. Lymph node. This is a lymph node. Now B cell, which are present in the bone marrow for maturity, come to this lymph node. Now, before going to this lymph node, there is a zone which is present before this lymph node, and there's a zone which is present after this lymph node. B cells inside the lymph node reside in something called as the germinal center. Germinal center. Before going to this germinal center and attaining maturity, B cells first go in a zone known as the pre-germinal zone. The pre-germinal zone. B cells in this pre-germinal zone are called as naive B cell. What is naive B cell? The B cells which haven't attained maturity and have not been exposed to a particular antigen are called as a naive B cell. Pre-germinal zone is also called as the mantle zone. Now, these B cells, after leaving the pre-germinal zone, go into the lymph node in a place called as the germinal center. This is the germinal center. The germinal center, the B cells reside and wait for the antigenic stimulation by an antigen presenting cell. Now, whenever the antigen presenting cell stimulates these B cells inside the germinal center, these B cells migrate into something called as the post-germinal center. Post-germinal center. The post-germinal center is also called as the marginal zone. In the marginal zone, these B cells differentiate into memory B cells and plasma cells. So these are the parts of a lymph node, and from all these zones there are lymphomas arising. First, we have, I'll revise again. We have the pre-germinal zone where naive B cells are present. It's also called as the mantle zone. Then we have the germinal center where mature B cells who are waiting to be stimulated by an antigen wait. Then after stimulation, there is something called as the post-germinal center, which is also called as the marginal zone, where B cells differentiate into memory B cells and plasma B cells. So there are lymphomas arising from each of these zones. We are going to study that next. First we have the pre-germinal center where naive B cells are present. Pre-germinal center is also called as the mantle zone. The marker of naive B cell is CD5, extremely important. And there are two malignancies arising from pre-germinal center. First is the mantle cell lymphoma, because the zone is called mantle zone. And we have second one is BCLL SLL. Now BCLL SLL. Now CLL means chronic lymphocytic leukemia, whilst SLL means small lymphocytic lymphoma. Why is it given such a name? Because it shows the interconversion of a lymphoma to a leukemia. Whenever the malignant cells are present in the lymph node, this is called as a lymphoma. When they enter the blood, all the visceral organs, it's called, all the bone marrow, it's called as leukemia. This is a very generalized thing. It's not exclusive. There are a lot of exceptions, but generally you should remember that lymphoma and leukemia are interconvertible. So the two things that arise from here are mantle cell lymphoma and BCLL SLL. Next, we have the germinal center. The marker of germinal center, this is very important. The markers are extremely important. Include, I have remembered using a mnemonic 623. First BCL6, first 6 is BCL6. There's something called BCL2 as well, should not confuse. And second one is CD23. And the third marker is, this is also very important, CD10. So three markers are BCL6, CD23 and CD10. All the aggressive lymphomas, which are rapidly growing lymphomas, arise from germinal center, which includes Burkitt's lymphoma, which is a very high grade lymphoma. Then we have diffuse large B cell lymphoma, a follicular lymphoma, and our favorite Hodgkin's lymphoma. So the four lymphomas arising from germinal center are Burkitt's, DLBCL, follicular, and Hodgkin's. Now the post germinal center, also called as the marginal zone, the two cells residing here are the memory B cell and the plasma B cell. Now memory B cell does not have any special marker of its own. This is very important. While the plasma cell has a marker known as CD38 or CD138. From memory B cell, the malignancies which arise include marginal zones. Is marginal zone. There is marginal zone lymphoma. There is something called as maltoma, which arises from here. There is also BCLL SLL. Remember, BCLL SLL can arise from both naive B cell as well as a memory B cell. This is important to remember. So BCLL can be a pre-germinal lymphoma or a post-germinal lymphoma. And the last is lymphoplasmocytic lymphoma. And our favorite, the malignancy which arises from plasma cell, is multiple myeloma. So it's important that you remember all the cell present in all these zones and what are malignancies, site of origin of these malignancies of these zones. Now this last thing, now we saw here that CD10 is a marker of germinal center. CD10 is also a marker, it's a precursor marker of both B and T cell lineages as well as TDT. So we have the precursor marker which is common between B cell and T cell is CD10 and TDT. And CD19, this is a very important MCQ, it's one liner thing. CD19 is the most widely expressed and the most specific marker for B cell. You should remember these two statements, it will help you.